up a seat to the bar and join us for another episode of McAnally's Pubcast, a podcast exploring the fun and fantastical mind of Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files series. Hosts Tansen, Jess, and Maggie bring you another round of literary analysis on this immense, immersive, and colorful environment inhabited by Harry Dresden, the world's only licensed private investigator and professional wizard. Join an active and engaged community of new and die-hard dedicated fans focused on the fabulous themes, theories, characters, context, lore, and more. This is McAnally's Dresden Files Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk. Welcome to the McAnally's Pubcast, brought to you by Free Flow Rambling. This is episode 13.24, Warden Dresden, where we are covering the novel Deadbeat. My name is Tansen, and I am joined by Maggie.
Hello, hello.
And Jess.
Holy motherfucking shit.
You can say that again.
Holy motherfucking shit.
Thank you.
Sorry, I don't swear.
Wow.
It's beneath me. Thank you so much to our Patreon subscribers for your generous support. It's people like you who help us keep doing what we're doing. If you're not yet a Patreon subscriber, sign up today and get a fuck ton of bonus content, kick-ass merch, behind-the-scenes outtakes, and more. Sign up today at patreon.com/freeflowrambling.
Chapter 31. Harry joins the Wardens and is updated on the brutal attacks and ambushes the White Council has endured most recently. Harry speaks with Luccio privately to decline her offer to become a Warden, but is finally convinced to accept and is promoted to commander of the region.
Two crazy things in this moment.
This chapter's never going to get off the ground. What happens in this chapter?
Luccio offers Harry to become a warden and then refers to Mac as Master Mac. What's that about?
Hey, one hell of an honorific there.
That's a weird honorific,
Well,
yeah.
I don't know. She's old school. We find out. She's like, 7,003 or something. So, you know.
That's exactly how old wizards live. Good job.
Yeah, that's just, she's everybody. Yes.
Well, that's more of an Italian sort of, like,
Ramirez.
maybe.
Yeah, it could totally be.
Master and
It
maestro.
could be an elderly thing. It could be an Italian thing. It could also just be a weird thing. But if it's a more specific to who Mac is thing, and you don't know what his beer tastes like, but you do know to call him Master, I think you're a weirdo.
Right? Well, I think this is exactly. I think it is a little nod to just, Mac is not just a local person of interest or whatever, right? People, and I think, obviously, they say
don't
as
just
much,
let anyone open up a supernatural bar.
right? They say something, it's a little tongue in cheek here, where you're, where it's like, yeah, she's like, I've got a new, and she hasn't tried this, but it's like, yeah,
The other one's in Pennsylvania. Sorry.
But yeah, I would say she is familiar with Master McAnally's offerings and knows she's going to get, which is why she's like, oh, you got anything good? And Mac's like, fuck you. She's like, hey, just kidding, Mac. I love you.
We're friends. We're totally friends.
Totally friends. We're
Just
buds.
kidding.
Yeah, all right.
Just teasing.
Yeah. Part challenge and part apology. So, yes, right? Mac's got backstory and history.
Right.
What?
So the Wardens sit at the table and close the they close the circle in a privacy spell. And I do love that Ramirez insists that he has to have his chair backwards to sit on it because,
He's
can't have
young and cool.
He's just...
This just starts out with a personality.
And yeah, so thank you, Master Mac. We will gladly drink your beer, but we're still not going to tell you what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And a whole cone of silence over the table for this talk. And oh my, what a talk.
Right off the bat, absent friends. Oofed.
Oofed. And oofter, because Harry's like, I can get behind that toast. It's like, oh, not even 30 yet, and he's got, enough absent friends
hey.
to toast
Didn't he just turn 30 this book?
tomorrow.
Hey, Thomas told him happy birthday because it was his birthday now, right?
Oh, yes, that's right. They did already have.
It's Halloween
They had
right
birthday
now.
pancakes. You're right. You're right. Barely. And I mean barely 30 to absent friends. Yeah, so that's gets you in the feels right there to open this conversation. And it just gets better.
Oh, this is a heavy chapter. Just when you think, you're like, oh, that sucks. Oh, that.
The lore, the leveling up, the groundwork for what will become.
It goes all in here.
It's everything in this chapter, and it's amazing. And I spent this whole chapter just basically at the edge of my seat.
Like
the first
jaw
time
drop.
and every time since.
Right?
Holy shit.
Yeah, because you know, but you forget exactly, right? Like you say, when you go over each detail, like you're like,
The way it plays out is so perfect.
it's done so well.
It's one of those moments of the Council of Rivendell moment, or even in Harry Potter when one where Trelawney goes a little bit crazy and she's like, the 13th one to rise will die. All these kind of precipitous meetings that are just like, what does it mean right now and what will it mean in the future? Who are we all going to become to each other in 25 books from now? And
yeah.
it's crazy what happens in this.
What do you mean? What's going to happen 25 books from now, Jessica?
What happens, though, in this conversation is really, really well done, though. Butcher does a really good job.
does.
I like it a lot. I like it so much. So diving right in.
Yeah, no joke.
We are at war.
We need people. We need bodies. What do you mean? You know, what? Yeah.
As you know, Harry, you started a war.
Yeah. So what have you heard? Not in the last couple days since I last checked in. It's been a little bit. I've had stuff going on. She's like, oh, you've had stuff going on. Wow. Let me fill you in since your last check-in.
Yes, the essential rundown is that.
Heavy offensive from the Red Court.
Heavy.
They came balls out, guns a-blazing.
Chose their moment well. So essentially what they've decided or worked out so far is that there is a mole.
When you just sum it all up like that, what do we need?
Some way, somehow, somebody has been feeding information to the Red Court. And some way, somehow, they managed to corner, surprise attack, decimate, follow them through.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just goes and goes and goes. So at first they say, okay, so they disrupted communications and stuff like that, which we already know, thanks to Harry, is not easily done a lot of the times for them, right? They don't carry cell phones. They can barely use a landline. They're not whipping out faxes. They're not sending emails, right? So they're still relying on a lot of old school, or at best, their fastest hope is a telephone if they don't bugger it up by just being too damn excited, good or bad, by whatever the fuck they're calling about. Right? So, yeah, they don't have easy ways, and they're right there. They've thrown a wrench into the gears right there. Well, okay, so fine. So now we need to so now you got to start, I don't know, meeting up more. You know, your regular messages aren't getting through. Either you're just delaying and screwing, especially like you say, in the midst of a war, you need to know where you're going, what are you doing, send backup, send help, whatever, right? So you're not getting that. And then presumably, like you say, okay, does this mean, they got to actually send more people physically out to go? So that's taking more time and more, right? Yeah, so.
There's a certain part of the White Council that they are still in the ancient times when it comes to communication and travel and such like that, because they can't engage with the newer technologies.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Harry said it before. You can't hop a plane, right? He used to do that a little bit, and then the last time he almost downed one, he's like, okay, no more. So exactly, especially if you're going to have, and again, we know it's the more powerful your abilities are. So again, the police force, the military force of whatever, right? They're going to have a certain amount of strong level magic to play those roles. You can't send a bunch of them together. If Harry can almost bring down a plane, what is 10 wizards going to do? What is 50 wizards going to do, right?
Well, this isn't, the way the wizards work isn't some people go, fucking Tinkerbell, right? Tinker is a classification, not a name, right?
Yes.
It's not the same way. It's not some of them become wardens and some of them become librarians and some of them, it's if you are good enough to be in the council, then you are a wizard of the White Council. And if you are even better than that, then you are a warden. There's not if you want to be, you can. For the most part, if you've got the magic for it, you are inducted into being one, okay? The reason Harry hasn't thus far...
I disagree a little bit with that. No, I don't think you're fully... Because I think there's lots of people that don't choose to be...
No, I think it's...
I think you're heavily encouraged to or something, but I
think it's more of a draft than a volunteer sort of a thing. It's just...
See, prior to this, I don't know that I would have... I mean, you might be right. That was not the same impression.
I could be wrong about that. I just always felt that it was less of a not everyone chooses to be a warden. But I was no, I think... Essentially, if you've got the power to be a warden and they show up on your doorstep and they're hey, guess what? Promotion time.
Yeah. I mean, maybe she'll let you know. I never got that. And I could be cool. I don't know. Maybe I just never. But yeah, I just feel like there's enough. Because he's talking about getting enough men in their, moldering old towers with their musty old books. And I feel like up until this point, or at least, I'm sure like in the real world with real wars and real conscription, that there may be kind of an ebb and flow to it and stuff like that too, right? But I mean, again, I think there is a certain amount of like you say, talent with your, right? Not everybody is suited. Not everybody can do that. Right?
Not everyone can teach the dark arts.
And not everyone can teach the dark arts, right? So yeah, I think that potentially in theory, a lot of those
wants to.
Stronger wizards, that again, just don't have a knack for throwing around power and restraining other people, but
Well, that really talks about some of because I was going to ask you guys if you thought whether or not Harry would have ended up being a warden if they hadn't have been so desperate.
Absolutely not. No way. Not many
Neither
other and neither does Harry. That's why he's like, you guys have been hounding. Like, he literally says, he's like, you guys have been fucking hounding me my whole life and accusing me of shit and waiting for me to fuck up. Like, you guys have been my worst nightmare, my biggest. And now you're like, hey, buddy, come be one of us.
That's why I felt
no way.
Everyone eventually becomes a warden, with the exception of Dresden, because it's like, well, fuck that guy. There's a reason, he should have been indicted years ago, but they want to indict him.
Yeah.
Well, we can look at it from a population, because they sort of give at least some statistics here.
A little bit, yeah.
That there's around 200 members of the Wardens-ish.
Yeah.
Or was.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's my point, too, because there's definitely a lot more.
I guess so.
But we don't really know what the actual populations of wizards are, so.
Yeah, so I would say a little bit like our own sort of police and military and stuff like that. I think people with kind of like a desire or an aptitude for that kind of a thing would go more towards it. And yeah, you might have some reluctant ones that are like, I'd rather do this, but I'm really fucking good at blowing shit up, so I guess I have to go blow shit up, But yeah, no, absolutely 100%, which is why, like, as Jessica was saying, you're like edge of your seat, jaw dropped open the entire time reading these couple of chapters, because you were like, there's no fucking way, right? You're like, how the fuck does Harry end up a warden? No.
Far as we're aware, it's also one of the only ways to make money.
Make money
as a wizard,
One of the paid positions within the council is, I don't know, maybe you must get a stipend for being on the council or something.
Yeah, I'm sure the council, like, they've got librarians. We know they've got people who normally sit on the phone lines and are running Edinburgh and whatever and shit like that. I'm sure there are other, but the warden is probably the most positions ever
it's
available. Always apply with, I don't know.
It's like the country club or whatever. Yeah, you got shit tons of members, but not everybody's getting, and then you got the people actually like running the country club that actually get paid to do that shit and make those decisions. And yeah, so there is that. Harry will, for the first time ever in his adult working life, have a constant, steady, guaranteed income, which is something. Maybe not a lot, but at least it's that little, but yeah.
No, well, exactly. And just the insult of this whole, you've never accepted me and never wanted me, and now that you're desperate for it, suddenly you do.
Yeah, now come fight for you. Yeah, lay down your life for us, even though.
At the same time, I get why he's upset about that. You started the war, Harry. And you have been relatively thus far not asked to step into the war any more than you have
not been direct. Other than, again, we heard the first book. There's a couple of attempts on your life. We haven't heard much the last couple of books.
And the Duke obviously came to Harry to be like, hey, you're the one who started it. So even though you're not the Merlin, you're not in charge of it. Since you started it, my people are okay if we just take you out. And then the White Council was even still willing. We definitely don't know anyone but Ebenezer's side of things. But Ebenezer said, I will bat this down for you because there's no way in hell you need to be involved in this war any more than you already are. And I am very confident that I will get them to bat it down for you. And Dresden was like, no, I do want to be... The point is that as offended as Harry is in this moment, I do think there's something to be said for the fact that, Harry, you are the reason there are no more wardens anymore.
I was going to say, it's very fair on both sides of it, right? I mean, like you say, he is sort of civilian. He's not the one, but like you say, he was a big instigator.
Let's be fair, Harry was tricked into it. The Reds wanted to start the war no matter what, and Harry was right place, right time.
Yeah, that was fair.
Harry should have some more responsibility in this moment and feel like, okay, I did basically start a war and then just went back to living in Chicago while you all went out to the front lines, and I have not ever been to the front lines ever, despite the fact that I'm really good with blowing shit up and killing vampires. But you guys think I'm going to stab you in the back, which is why you've never brought me to war before.
Yeah.
What the hell?
So, yeah, it's like you say, it's very much
probably hasn't been that much communication going on what is actively going on in the war until Like, I think this is probably the most news that he's really...
It is. Well,
beyond, like, you know, like...
Again, when there was things
the general updates on, but yeah, like you say,
and slower, and the news made its way around the grapevine slower.
well, again, kind of like you say, general civilian,
these
right?
people
He's
just
not in there,
survived
so
this
same
massive-
thing as all the people back home watching their television sets and being like, "Here's your latest update on the war," right? They're not privy to what General MacArthur was like. Okay, here's what we're doing today, and so yeah, so Harry, I think, has, like you say, all the wizards and things like that are involved. You get your general, like, this is how things are going, this is where we're at, right? And then yeah, now that things are more dire and become more specific too, right now they're like, oh, okay, so now we're going to read Gin on this because now you do need to know.
Well, here's what Harry needed to know. Essentially, they took hostages, which is not a good thing. It's essentially you're supposed to have a cyanide pill on you, okay? You don't get taken by vampires because then they will turn you into wizard vampires.
Right?
And that's not great.
And
Very bad.
Okay?
Yeah.
But apparently they did take alive prisoners, okay? So they went looking for them.
we got to go get it back.
The senior council came looking for them. And that's crazy power right there to say, like, yes, the Merlin took the field with you. And they they give off a list of things, but like South America, Europe, and Asia, like
Started in
Madrid,
Cairo, or
Sao
something
Paulo,
like that.
Acapulco, and Athens, just to find out that they were being held in Belize and that the king may or may not be there, the Red King.
Yeah.
just crazy, crazy numbers of
Yeah, so
power and people and getting around the world. Athens is not right next door to St. Paulo.
it is not. And this is the thing, like, this goes back to kind of what we were saying before, right? Like, obviously, they can't just hop a jet plane and, but they do have, obviously, other ways of, but like you say, not necessarily the same easy peasy for everybody or mass movement of troops or whatever, right? So,
Well, and we figure out that they are utilizing, at least in this now, that they're utilizing the Never Never.
so right, this is the thing, yeah, so we discovered they have, but again, with this, like you say, breakup of communications and things like that, not being able to, yeah, they have to rely on these other ways, but they don't just belong to the wizards. So while they can use this stuff, it's not like they can just pop through the Never Never and not, like the vampires and things like that. Basically anything the wizards can do, the vampires can do too, and those things, but there's things that the vampires can do that the wizards can't.
Anything you can do, I can do deader.
I can make anything deader than you. No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
So, yeah, right. So, and there's the flip side. I mean, then, yeah, vampires maybe not so much with the daylight movements that the wizards can do, but...
It seems as though the vampires had the advantage.
Have
And
the
it seems
advantage.
that way because that's how they planned it.
Oh, weird that.
Weirdly enough, the vampires have been planning this a long, long time. And you know the whole great man theory about, well, did it have to be Napoleon or could anyone have done that? Did it have to be...
Right.
And that's a little bit like, yeah, it didn't need to be Harry Dresden. They were going to frame anyone for this, okay? It doesn't have to be Arthur
Find a
Langtry as
way
the
to-
Merlin. They were just waiting for the opportunity, and they got it now, and so that's why it's happening now. But they have been planning this for a hella fucking long time.
Yeah, and like we discovered, like with Ortega's thing and stuff like that, right? Some people were like, we weren't supposed to kick it off right then. Some people are like, yeah, it's more than enough time. It's been going on long, and right? So there is that little bit, but no matter how you slice it, whether it was the time or not,
As Harry says, it's been a lot of a Cold War thus far with everyone a little bit too afraid to exactly kick things off.
yeah, and again, I think it plays into the point where he was saying that not everybody was ready, not everybody wanted. They're like, oh, you started it too soon. So yeah, they kind of were able to just be like, just kidding, and while they finished, right? And like you say, this is their first launching of their first
the switch
heavy
to
major
offensive is big.
and it, yeah, right. So yeah, it tells you again how much planning, how much manpower they had, how much whatever.
So then it's no surprise that obviously this was a trap. They managed to escape because they were able to create an escape through the Never Never that the vampires were not able to follow after them in. Unfortunately, their location when they emerged from the Never Never and...
So, as you said, the Merlin and the senior council did decide to join the attack at McCoy's suggestion.
Yeah, so
and at the assault, they found that there were people but no evidence of the Red King and his entourage. And then they they were betrayed internally in the assault, and they were ambushed by the vampires afterwards.
Yeah, we moved out and took our wounded to the hospice in Sicily, and then someone within our ranks must have reported our position. So I figured they didn't follow, but they just knew where they were.
And because they were pursued into the Never, they basically outright declared war on summer and winter. And on top of which, while they're trapped in the Never, they are trapped there because somebody, whoever betrayed them, blocks their exit out of the Never, while the Red Court is calling on demons from the Netherworld and calling on outsiders. So it's bad. They are getting hugely slaughtered before they can even make it out of the Never.
Well, but yeah, and that's the thing, because like you say, I think that was, did they not make it all the way out into? No. Because they first, when that first attack, and they first recover whoever they could from Belize, and that's when, yeah, exactly, like Red Council, the senior council's like, okay, got the big guns out, right? And then they get them to the hospital, and that's where they get more of them attacked there, did they not?
Yeah, they get the, okay, so they're...
And then from there, they went into
once they're in the Never, then the Merlin and the gatekeeper do a big giant ward spell.
Yeah.
They get out. They move to... Then they take all of they're like, oh, okay, we're really decimated. And they move their asses to the Congo, to that hospital there. But then they're gassed out by humans that the...
Yeah, I was going to say, but yeah, that's... So yeah,
the major thing is, like, right after they've left the first attack... Or the first hospital. That's maybe what you're saying?
That's kind of, yeah, like that's kind of what I mean. Yeah, they get to the first recovery place, and while they're trying to recover, like, oh, yeah, we just got this wounded, we're like, okay, and they get hit then, while they're trying to recover from, right, and then they're like, okay, shit, now we got to run again, and while they're trying to get to the next place, then there's, right, and that was, that's.
Right, so that's after the hospital, then when they go into the Never, then they're pursued.
Yeah, so whichever way, but it's just, yeah, each step they're getting carved off, they don't get a chance to just stop and move on. It's like, we're like, okay, quick, we're saved. And then, like, we lose a bunch of people. And then, like, oh, shit, we moved. And we're like, okay, we're saved. And then we lose a bunch of people. Like, okay, wait, shit, we're right. And
wherever they go, they're routed out.
Yeah.
But this is what's the crazy part is that escaping into the Never should have been safe for the wizards because they were able to create a deal with the Fae.
How did they get that?
Weirdly enough, thank you, Dresden.
Yeah, because that was way back then. They're like, we're going to be fucked because we can't use planes and shit if we can't go through the Never.
Yeah. So this is why retreating to the Never was supposed to be safe, but the vampires pursued them anyways, which means the vampires have declared war on winter and summer.
Yeah. And Harry's like, well, there's no fucking way. They wouldn't do that. That means they... Yeah, and she's like, yeah, they fucking
No, they did. And that's an even crazier thing to think about because it's one thing to declare war with one faction, but to...
Measly old humans,
right? But with three of them, holy shit, they're not here to play.
What do they have up their sleeves that they feel confident enough to take on all of these?
Exactly. And that's terrifying. Or do they have their own deal with Fairy that we don't know about?
Or they're pissed enough. I mean, like, even because they say, right, they're like, we kill... So why do you say once you get even the big heavy hitters, the major players, the senior council are like, hey, fuck this shit. And they're like, we were taking out like 20 vampires to every one wizard. And they were still like, coming. They were just throwing bodies. They were like, they didn't fucking care. The whole point was to get this, and doesn't matter how many.
This all goes back to when we had Ortega, because Ortega said, we want, not just Ortega, but during that book, everyone was saying, why do they want to hold things back? Why do they want to stop? Why do they want to? And it's like, they need more time to make more vampires. Yeah. And Ortega also said, the new vampires we're making aren't as respectful. They aren't as diligent. They aren't as subservient. We need some time to teach them their place.
Generations, they just have no respect for them.
So it's part of this, they thought the king was going to be there. The king wasn't there. They had way more vampires than we expected. They were, what's the phrase here? They were mad to die in order to kill us?
Yeah. Leaping over mounds of their own dead.
Question too is that maybe they weren't even supposed to follow you into Fairy, but there's just so many. There's no one controlling them anymore. It's just you've been released on them.
Couldn't hold back the horror. Yeah.
And now the fact that they're at war with the fairies is not what they intended to do, but they did, and at least in the process, they've decimated the wizards.
Yeah, you're right. It could be once you got the machine rolling, you couldn't stop it, kind of a thing, and it just
we don't know
the
level
we don't know, but it does sound, and especially from the way that Dresden's right, he's like, oh, there's no way they would have pursued you into there. And it's like, yep, they did. He's like, they would have declared war. Yep, that's essentially what they did. But regardless of,
and not only that
they planned so well that they made sure that they made an attack that wasn't expected because the wizards are expecting them not to be out in daylight, So they're like, no, you know what? Let's hire humans. This is outside of the rules of war to do that level of destruction, using that gas for loss of life.
Yeah, it's just the heartbreak of it too, because the humans don't know that the reason that like the White Council is here to protect the humans from the vampires, or whatever other supernatural thing. That's what they've done. All of their rules about what a wizard can and cannot do is to protect humans.
Society.
It doesn't. Yeah, Harry's allowed to kill as many vampires and monsters as he fucking wants, and no one's gonna ever come on his doorstep.
Yeah, magic or otherwise. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
when you start attacking humans or magical humans. You know, wizards are humans.
Yes,
that's the ones that they're supposed to be like. This is what we're here protecting. This is what we've dedicated ourselves to, is protecting the humans who cannot protect themselves. And Harry has done that on his own. I'm not part of the White Council, but I myself have a duty to Chicago and the people of Chicago, and I will protect the people of Chicago from the monsters of Chicago.
Yeah.
So for the monsters to be like, fuck you, we're going to hire humans to kill you.
Like you say, right? Rules of etiquette and things like that, there have always been. And I mean, we've talked about it in these with the rules of hospitality and... Sorry?
Oh, sorry. It's just the rules of engagement.
Oh, yeah, same thing, right? But like you say, there's a certain amount of... This is how, I always think of the line, Princess Bride, he's like, I'll put down my sword and you put down your rock and we'll kill each other like civilized human beings kind of a thing, right? And yeah, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, we're all here to kill each other, but there's boundaries you don't step out of. There's ways of doing that you don't involve the exactly right. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they just threw all of that out the window and went completely outside the play. Yeah, right. And I mean, like, the whole thing really is technically brilliant because they staged enough of an attack and managed, like you say, to get those hostages in the first place that they lure out, right? And I mean, of course, it makes sense to us, like, in the beginning of this retelling, right? And they're like, we can't let them get away with that. And the Merlin's like, no, we can't go. And Harry's like, what the fuck? We have to go. And he's like, what made them finally change their mind, right? McCoy was like, dude, we got it, right? So you're like, yeah, he got Mai on his side and he got the gatekeeper. And they're like, dude, we have to fucking, right? But ultimately, should they have listened to the fucking asshat Merlin this time? Because then the senior council wouldn't have been out there and they couldn't have made an attack on the senior council.
If they hadn't had somebody that was working against them from within,
well,
then it would have been a good plan.
And this is the whole thing, right? It's exactly without that whole...
You've got this man straight up called the gatekeeper, and then they call in the outsiders.
Yeah.
And it's like... fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
right.
Not supposed to happen.
It was a phenomenal, and even if they, like I say, so they had a really good shot and did their best to take out the senior council, and a little bit of luck, a little bit of, they chewed through all the numbers but they managed to stop it before but I mean, they came really, really damn close. And other than the power and magnitude of the senior council and the fact that they still had those last few bodies standing between them, they almost, right? Like,
well, because so, as I said, you don't know if the machine is just going to keep going. You don't know how involved is the king or is the higher powers. But for someone to have called outsiders, there did have to be some sort of planning there. There did have to be some sort of authority, magic, whatever. Yeah. And not only that, but only mortals can call outsiders. It's that much more of a stomach drop of like, hello, warning, we've been betrayed. What the fuck is going on?
By our race, by our cult, by our religion, by our, whatever
exactly,
way you want us, like. But see, this is the other interesting thing, though, because as we did learn with Ortega and his little hacienda and all that kind of stuff, they do have lots of thralls and cattle and like whatever way you want to write. So in theory, again, if you've been brought up in this whack vampires are your gods, and because again, in any given human population, there's X amount of wizards obviously being born into it. So if you cultivate your little town thing, chances are sooner or later you're going to have wizards, however that's passed down, however common that is, generation after generation, or skipping all over the place. Could they potentially, were they necessarily betrayed as such? Or did they just have mortals within their ranks that were like, okay, yeah, sure, you know what I mean? Like, would vampires have had access to that kind of magic knowledge and growth and whatever or would you have had to turn somebody from like, right? Like, I never really thought about that aspect before, but just thinking, right? I'm like, yeah, they could potentially have had people in place for that kind of stuff all along too. Not necessarily that a mortal went in with the vampires. It's like, yeah, because the vampires bred their own,
but to that
faithful mortals.
To that end, though, is that they're not the thralls you would expect are not typically as powerful, okay? It was weird that Maggie let herself get into that, Margaret Le Fay, get into that position that she did. Typically speaking, the ones that they enthrall tend to be lesser capabilities, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily the ones that you think are going to be like, okay, go break a seventh law of magic and open up the gates, and that's fine. Anyone can do that. We can just ask anyone to do it all the time.
But I'm talking just like not even just the thralls, because Ortega's like they had a whole community and village, right? They're the caretakers of the land, right? So you got this big rich South American guy who's got this big rich South American farm and all the people that work on it. Right, so they're just like, hey, our Lord and Master is just super cool. Like, we, live off his land, and so we are faithful to him because, the same way as history has progressed for, right, whether you take in or out the vampire part of the equation. So all I'm saying is, if wizardry is inherent in mortal, right, you've just got this village of people. And this village of people just keeps reproducing. They're not necessarily all thralled, because after the first few, you don't know it's wrong because that's the way you were raised. You're just like, oh yeah, these are the people that any other wealthy landowner throughout history is like, okay, you own all the land and you help protect the people around here. This is your little village that you... Right. So I meant as if there's wizards getting born into there. You don't necessarily have to enthrall them that way to just be like, oh, hey, cool. This is your little mini liege kind of a thing, right? Like, why are you, I don't know Justin Trudeau from a hole in the wall, but, I'm loyal to my country and he's my prime minister and therefore, you know what I mean? It's that kind of a thing, right?
Well, it gets worse. Because the outsiders managed to kill 23 just the second they appeared in the surprise attack.
Surprise!
And that was after the senior council had already retreated with the wounded. And so some of them came back. I think McCoy and Liberty came back. And they managed to create a ward. And it still wasn't good enough because... Fast forward through everything that continued to happen through that day when they again went to another hospital and then the nerve agent, the gases, the humans show up and kill them all.
He's specific, and that's the other thing too. He's like, we do have a specific law against just that in itself. Thou shalt not call out. Not like, fairies and demons and yetis and right. No, this specifically, they have one all for themselves. This is how bad these things are.
So thousands of regular humans lost their lives. And 143 wardens of an estimated 200.
6 square blocks around the hospital, totally wiped out.
That is
civilians and
anyone. Let's just make sure.
6 square blocks is so much goddamn fucking space.
It's when you
unreal.
Stop to actually, you're like, 6 blocks. Okay, you know what? Go out right now and walk 6 square blocks. You'd be like, fuck that. I don't want to go down to the corner to the 7-Eleven. You know what I mean, right? You're like, yeah.
I've never been to Sicily, but I already know from being in other parts of Italy, they don't have the same crawling space that we have. They build up. There's a lot of fucking people in one building. Up and up and up.
Yes, very densely populated in that.
Very densely populated. Just crazy.
Yeah, no, and that's okay. We needed to get these 200 people. We totally don't give a shit about the other 2,000.
The hospital being the center point of that.
Right, where, again, just all your everyday normal sick and wounded and out of bounds. You don't go after right? They're already wounded. Okay, you had your shot at them there.
I just did a quick look of the average size. Just an average city block is all I plugged in. Okay, there's one that's from this one article, how many acres are in a city block, and it estimates that most city blocks are between 217,000 and 237,000 square feet.
Woo!
Which is the equivalent of approximately 5 to 6 acres.
And I do like this moment too when they try to tell and just so you know, McCoy was injured, and he's like, who cares? Everyone was injured, and it's like, okay, but we know that Dresden cares most about McCoy, you bitch. Relax. And
even though he's still carrying some baggage, because even just he mentioned McCoy a little while ago, he's like, and he's still pissed off at that guy because he did, he's like. But it's major heavy hitters, the whole, he's like they put up a ward in that stone wall like an entire army, and you don't get to be the Merlin by collecting bottle caps.
But sorry, and that was not the Sicily hospital, that was the Congo hospital that they control when the gas thing happened. So it's even the one that you think is under your control, and it still wasn't. It was
the safe house of your safe houses kind of a thing that,
Betrayed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you say, with astronomically devastating results, not just they got us on the run or, oops, they got our secret. It's no, they wiped out.
And then
so much of your immediate fighting force.
Harry has this thought to himself, and he's like, Cowell told me the council was rotted from the inside out. And what the fuck have I just learned now? Like 12 hours later.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's huge because, like you say, it doesn't. I mean, you don't know if this is one person. You don't know if this is 1,000 people in the council, right? And it could legitimately be either. Like, it just depends who it is, where they are, what they know. It doesn't have to be a whole. I mean, I'm sure there's a whole network, but you know what I mean, like. Right, and look how much damage and the effective damage, because like you say, sure, there's still a shit ton of wizards out there, but as we were just discussing a few moments ago, how many of them are the musty old book learners up in their towers that just want to research and try and turn like lead into gold, right? You know, not the brawlers, the bruisers, the tactical minds, the strategists, that's what they have taken out. So it's like, sure, we could still have thousands of bodies, but what the fuck do you do with a bunch of untrained people that don't know how, don't want to, are scared? Like, yeah, fucked them up big time.
Yep.
So yeah, Dresden, not a joke. Yeah. And how do you say no to that after that?
And yet,
well, because you know
speak
why?
to you privately.
I try.
You've got Morgan sitting here, my enemy.
So here's what he's got, right? So you got Morgan. So you got Luccio, who's a longtime veteran, right? We do know she's a couple hundred years old or something like that. You got Morgan, who I think at some point they implied like around 100 or something. I can't remember for sure. But again, we know, Harry's entire life, he's been a long time warden that way. And now you got Ramirez, who he vaguely remembers from like the 4th book as an apprentice when they showed up for that. And like,
Who seems to have a modicum of talent because he
just have a modicum of talent.
he returned.
Yes, yeah. I mean, he has survived and he has graduated to this level. Yeah. And then like these two like fresh-faced, like baby-faced, really...
Other equipment's new. They haven't seen battle yet.
Right? Like, Harry's like, what the fuck? So much. The core knowledge and experience, like you say, that went down in these.
You understand Harry's perspective in all of this. We've been here the whole time. We get why he has beef with them, and it's fair beef, okay? They have been awful to him,
Absolutely.
okay? Of course, they're not the people that you want to, take arms up with.
I would have a lot of resentment, too.
I get, okay, fine, you are my people to a certain degree. I will always be a part of the Wizards of the White, but not any more than I fucking have to be.
Yeah. Yeah, just because we're all human beings doesn't make me one of you. And, like, that's as far as it goes,
Well, and the same sort of thing, a knight swearing fealty to his queen and a civilian just, being in the queen's land is two very different responsibilities, like...
Well, exactly. And that is the other side of it, too, is I get the fear side of it, exactly. Like, yeah, Harry's got this sort of... But like you say, it's kind of in his little corner. He's been kind of step at a time, kind of going up right now to be thrown in, like, yeah, I wouldn't want, somebody to be shown up. And especially in the wake of this. Okay. So the bad guys have a lot more numbers than we previously thought. They're a lot more organized than we previously thought.
We have a lot less numbers than we previously
They
had.
killed they went up against our hardest, baddest, bestest, whatever, da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, they wiped out everybody good. So now you go fight them. Fuck that shit.
It's not a great
It's endorsement, right?
Yeah,
speech. Yeah, like they almost got the senior council. So now we need you to go in and
Everything's been burnt down and burnt to shit.
cannon fodder, right? Yeah. Like, no,
we're
I don't want to
go.
go. You guys knew what you were doing. You were trained for this. You were expecting. I mean, ish. You were in, right? And you couldn't do it.
It's a pretty weak position to start from.
And to even say the fairies aren't even ready to mobilize
I'd be
either.
fucking terrified. Yeah. Yeah. Harry's like, I've been,
But Harry doesn't even go to fear. He goes to anger. You've been trying to kill me since I was 16 for something I didn't ever do. Didn't ever do.
Didn't ever? I never did.
You're all convinced I'm some hideous threat, and every time you get the chance to make my life miserable, you try. And she's still like, yeah, and bitch, we're at war.
She is at least surprised. She's like, I thought it was all rumors, but now she's, number one, seeing firsthand Morgan get
Interact with Morgan.
bitchy and be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
And where she's had to be like, go get me a beer. Like, just fuck off. Get me a beer.
It is kind of hard.
But she
and then to hear that firsthand, like, that
But she almost doesn't.
actually did do what he did.
she almost doesn't care at first. She's like, okay, yeah, sure, they've been mean to you. Grow up. It's when he gets to the entrapment that she's like, okay, wait, what?
Yeah.
That's a problem for Luccio to hear that, the events.
Oh, yeah, wait a minute. Oh, wait, what?
2 books ago, I believe it was, when Morgan tried to showed up at Harry's apartment after they had that meeting and tried to get him to go crazy. Oh, interesting.
That's number 3. What are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
What's reasonable? Yeah, exactly. She's like, okay, fine. So you guys have been, and again, we all do that. But, parents and things, right? Teachers of, right? Okay, fine, right? And then, sometimes you're like, oh, okay, no, I did. I thought you guys were just being like whiny little bitch. I thought you were just like, my brother poked me, my son, And then, you find out like, oh, shit, that was, okay, wait, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, Morgan and the Merlin.
I didn't know, okay, I didn't know that it was like that. I thought you were just, okay, maybe it's not just
they basically tried to set him up for death. Oh, yeah, okay. You might have a legit reason to not want to accept, but you're just going to have to, so take it.
Yeah. Okay, that sucks. I didn't know that. You're right. That's the way you are serious. However, still doesn't matter, actually, at the moment, right now.
And her arguments, actually, are really, interesting.
Well, and it's so good and fulfilling and great to get the accolades that you deserve, because she still said, she's like, you're seriously going to stand back and not fight? And he's like, no, I didn't say that. I said, I'm not fucking wearing your goddamn cloak.
Yeah.
I absolutely will go to war against the Red Court. I absolutely will fight against Kemmler.
Have been.
Always have, always will. Nothing's going to stop me.
You. I'm not going to do it in your name
exactly.
Kind of thing, or with your badge.
And it's just this I love you, Harry. I love you, Harry. I love you, Harry.
Right. Yeah, because you're sucking, you're like, wait, what? But Harry always does.
But she's got just such a strong argument back where she points out, she's like, so remember the part when I said the council was betrayed and you will be the number one suspect. So if you say no to me,
what's that going to do to all these
very fucked. If you think it's bad now, it will be worse.
What's that going to look like?
It's crazy that
she says it very nicely, but that's basically what it boils down to.
Yeah. It's crazy that we were trying to recruit Harry Dresden. It'll be crazier for you to turn us down.
Yeah, because, like you say, what does that say about... And, she makes a very strong point, all your detractors and blah, 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 and what is that going to say? And it's interesting, too, because she brings up all the young ones. Like, you made an impression at that meeting 3 years ago, the fourth book one or whatever, right? You're like, Ramirez and shit like that? Yeah, you kind of remember, I was apprentice there somewhere. They're like... Yeah, it may not have been you thumbing your nose at the council, but you're right. You're not the 16-year-old. You're not the newest kid on the block anymore.
Oh, I do
now
like
10 years have passed, and there's more people, and they're looking and seeing what you did and how you acted and what you're... So, you know what?
It's been 14 years, or a little less, and not only that, but 30 is still very young in terms of wizards, okay? You still are one of the young ones, as a matter of fact.
Still is pretty young in general, and again, wizard-wise, even more so, yes.
Yeah, in general too, I guess.
Yeah. I know you feel like you're about to, drop dead in your grave, Jessica. I know 30's hard when you're looking at it from your side of it, but it's nothing when you get, three decades on the other side of 30 is...
It's just the fact that no one will let me be in my 20s. Ever since I turned 24, they're like, you're almost 30, you're almost 30, you're almost 30. I'm like, can I be 20s still first, please?
That's why there's a such thing called as a quarter-life crisis.
It's not a quarter-life crisis. It's just people, trying to make it a bad thing. It pisses me off. I'm like, I wasn't scared of 30. You're just annoying about it.
Yeah. It's like pregnancy. Nobody ever tells you this. So my pregnancy was fine. And they're like, it was horrible. It was 27 months of just agony and 43 days of labor.
If you're pregnant for 27 months, I think you get to complain.
But everybody makes it sound like that's theirs.
If I hit 11 months of pregnancy, I am pitching a fit.
I do really appreciate that Luccio does let Harry in on what his reputation actually is. I didn't even put this quote in to read it. You have overcome more enemies and battled more evils than most wizards a century your senior. And times are changing. There are more young wizards attaining membership to the council than ever before, like Ramirez and his companions there. To them, you were a symbol of defiance to the conservative elements of the council and a hero who is willing to risk his life when his principles demand it. The council will need every scrap of courage and faith we can muster. Your presence and support in the face of great danger will appease your detractors, and the presence of a wizard who has experience in battle will encourage the young members of the council. She grimaced. Simply put, Dresden, we need you, and you need us.
And then there's the conditions, which I love, because Harry will stay in Chicago. You make this my area, okay? Which obviously is a great fuck you to Morgan, too, because this is Morgan's area. Morgan will have to relocate because Harry refuses to. But Harry's in such a good position in this moment to make those demands, and I think in a lot of other areas he would not have been.
Yeah.
He's very lucky that this is the position that it is being asked of him, and that he can say, okay, fine, but I'm taking over whatever the fuck this is, West America, all of America, whatever the fuck you've decided to divvy it up
Whatever
by.
this section is yeah.
It's mine. I'm staying in Chicago. This is my land, and no one's breathing over my neck, okay? If I'm a warden, I'm a straight up fucking warden.
Yeah, not just in name only into parade. Not, he wants to be the real Captain America, not what they wanted Captain America to be when they first made Captain America, and before Captain America was like, fuck you. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, you will be regional commander. You will be in charge of security operations in this region, and you will coordinate with 3 other American regional commanders. It'll be your job to protect mortals in the area, to be vigilant against supernatural threats in your region, to represent the council in battles of diplomacy, to aid and assist other wizards who come to you for aid and protection, and when required, to strike out any enemies of the council, such as the Red Court and their allies.
I pretty much do that already.
Yeah.
Check.
Check. Yeah.
You know what I really do appreciate,
But now
though,
you
as
get paid
well,
for it.
is that when he says, "I don't want Morgan anywhere near me," like he's got to go, and she's already like, no, that he was going to be removed anyways. Like she has already shown that she has listened to Dresden, that he is not safe around Morgan.
Yeah.
He's like, nope, it's gone. I was gonna do it anyways.
Yeah.
Love Luccio. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
And this highlights very similar to the conversation you just had with Komori too, I think, where it's like they both were like, well, okay, why are you doing this? You're already doing it. We're already on the same page. We already want this to happen anyways.
Yeah.
Great. Will you just finally stand up and say whose side you're on? And Harry's always like, I'm on my side, okay? Why is that so complicated for people? And here's
everybody else sucks.
Yeah, here's an example where Luccio is like, that's not good enough anymore, okay? You're fucking one of us, okay? It's time to start admitting it.
Yeah, you can't just buy
And not only that you need us as much as we need
association,
you,
but now you
but
need to
we want you as much as you want us.
really exactly like, yeah, we're now in a position where you need it just as bad as we need you. So,
and then very, very cool. This all up till now, this has just been, kind of a lore meeting, a recruitment meeting. And now that you have been made commander, you're the most up to date on this. What's our next step?
yeah, it's another problem you brought us in for. Now that we've told you that, yeah, the council is sunk and everybody's dead and the vampires are shedding it up. What is this other problem completely unrelated that you have going down that's going to wipe out the rest of it if we don't? Yeah.
It's just very much of this, like, okay, now that we're equals, the floor is yours.
Which is so weird. Like, I don't know how much you've experienced yet at your point, Jessica, but I mean, it's that weird thing about suddenly being like the parent at like teacher interviews. Where you're like, wow, these aren't all like the Mr. and Mrs. and like first name, or like my parents' friends now. Like my mom's friends are no longer Mr. and Mrs. I can just call up this person on my own and be like, hey Maria, I want to go out and have drinks or some shit, you know what I mean? And it's like, who used to be like that? Yeah, it's like, it's crazy that, wait, we're on the same level. It's so
little
cool.
different in the 21st century where I've already referred to my friends' parents by their names for life. And even teachers I have referred to by their first name because some of them are just weird like that.
It is a little bit some, and yeah.
Rules of hospitality just break down with
But just
time.
certain, if not, yeah, I was going to say, if not necessarily just like the names or titles things, but just certain things
yes.
where you're suddenly on like just the same page, like you say, the same footing, or
Yes, when you suddenly find yourself that you are the adult in the room.
yeah, exactly, right. You're privy, or
We're still waiting for that person to show up in this room.
right?
All right, Harry, welcome to the team.
This concludes our episode 13.24, Warden Dresden. Thank you for listening. You can find us online at freeflowrambling.com and McAnallys.ca. There we have links to our other podcasts, social media, and other fun tidbits. Please subscribe if you like what you're hearing, and please consider supporting us through Patreon to keep the magic alive and to see more content. We are Free Flow Rambling. Conjure by it at your own risk.